To take a look at schedules, we'll need to have a floor plan with some doors at least in a few rooms. So you can open up the project that you created for the first assignment, or you can go ahead and create another floor plan with doors and walls. So one of the things we like to do is to put room names in here. So I'm going to, in the architecture tab, click on room, and then when I go close to the room, I can click and have here several room names. I'm going to use my escape key because this room might have a separator, because maybe we have a living room and a kitchen. So there's a room separator here icon that we can use to draw here the line that separates these two rooms. Now when I escape out and go back to the room icon, I can come back over here and put these rooms in. Using my escape key, or remember the modify button at the top left, I can come in here and change the room names. So maybe this is the master bedroom, and I'll go ahead and name the rest. You can pause the video if you'd like. Okay, now that we have the rooms named, I just want to make sure that you understand that the size of the text is controlled by the scale of the drawing. So this is an 1/8 inch, but if I change the scale to a 1/4 inch, you see how the text gets smaller. So maybe this is a 1/16 of an inch and it gets a lot bigger. So you can kind of guide which scale that you need for your project. I'll go ahead and keep it at an 1/8 inch for this project. Now I don't want to see the room number, so I can select one of these room names, and over here in properties I can pick edit type and take the check mark out of show room number and pick apply and pick OK. And now I'm not showing the room number. That might be more important if you're working with really large commercial jobs that need room numbers to establish those spaces. Another thing that we might want to do is tag these doors with a mark, like a number, so that we can show that in the schedule, but there is a way of saying what room it's coming from. So we'll do both. Let's go to the annotate tab, and at this point you can tag by category, or you can just pick tag all. Let's go ahead and tag all and put a check mark in door tags. Pick apply and OK. Now all of your doors have those little ellipses that will give the number or the mark for that door in the schedule. So you can decide on whether you want to have that label on your doors. You can click right on this door that's number 7 because it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoever drew this maybe deleted a door or two, and we can select the door and go over in properties and change it to whatever number you'd need. So the mark right here is going to be 5, and by doing that, now I have this numbering system 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we can go to the View tab and pick Schedules and schedule Quantities. This is where you can get your material takeoff and other types of schedules. We'll work with Schedule and Quantities, and taking a look at all the multiple disciplines under the filter list, and also all of these different categories. So everything from door to window to plumbing fixtures, anything that's in the drawing that you can pull out into a schedule. So here we'll go ahead and pick the doors for the door schedule. You can change the name here if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and pick OK. And now it's setting up the fields or the way that you'd like your schedule to look. So the first thing I'd like to see, what I like to see, is the room name or room that it's coming from. So I'm going to change here in the select available fields from room. And so from room, I'm going to go ahead and pick from room name. And this is where you pick the arrow here to add the parameter to the other side and basically create columns. So I'm picking add parameter, and I'm going to go back to doors here in this select available fields drop down and pick up a few more things. I'm going to pick family and type so that you can see the type of door and the size of it. But you could do those individually to have different columns, but you'll see as we create it. And I'll go ahead and pick add field. And then also maybe a count of how many we have of that type. So I'll select count and pick add parameter. And I always establish a column for remarks or comments. So I'll highlight comments and pick here add parameters. You can use these arrows down here to move the parameter up and down into the list. And later on, we're going to take a look at creating a new parameter that would give us the cost estimate. I'm going to go ahead and pick OK so that you can see where we're at so far, but you can see that there are several tabs here to change the appearance and the formatting that we'll come back to. So I'm going to go ahead and pick OK. And now this is our door schedule. We haven't yet brought it to a sheet yet. Right now it's an individual door schedule, and I did forget to bring the mark in. So what's great here is that once you create your door schedule in properties, you'll have those same tabs to go back to. So I'll go to fields right here at the far right and pick edit so that I can get here that mark, which is going to be the number of the door. I'll highlight mark and pick add parameter, and then I'll pick this arrow to move the parameter up so that it becomes the first column. The first column will be mark. I'll go ahead and pick OK, and you see it will update your schedule so you can continually change your schedule until you get it the way you want it. In the appearance here tab, or here in properties next to appearance, I'm going to pick edit, and you'll be able to change the type of lines and show headers and titles. There's so many different things that you can change here. I just wanted to show you that I can also go over to formatting, which is right next to it. What I like to do here is to center these numbers in the column. So with mark highlighted, I'm going to change the alignment to center, and then I'll highlight count and change the alignment to center, and go ahead and pick OK, and see how it kind of aligns it. So you have here the door mark, the room that it comes from and into the other room, and also the type of door with the size. You could change that so that the size is independently another column, like I said, and then the count and the comments. So if I wanted to put a comment in here, I could just click and start to type in the information. So let's go ahead and pick the edit button next to sorting and grouping. Here we can sort by the family and type. So this is kind of like how you want the list to look. Do you want it ascending or descending for the list of objects? So this applies to a window schedule or a room finish schedule, all of the different schedules. We can put a blank line right by putting a check mark here between the different types, and we can get grand totals based on the title, the count, and the totals right here. And if we want to take the check mark out of itemize every instant, we'll be able to see how many of that one door. So depending on how many doors you have posted, I just want you to be able to see what we can do in this schedule. Let's go ahead and pick OK. And now we know that the kitchen by itself has only one of this type of door, but there are 4 of this other type of door, and the grand total of doors are 5. So you can always go back to these properties and change the fields and how it's displayed, and all the drawings will update. And here is the door schedule in the project browser. So before we move forward to look at other schedules, let's highlight sheets and right click and pick new sheet. We created our own sheet. If you'd like to go ahead and use that from the last assignment, you can, or you can pick load and scroll down to title blocks, double click on title blocks. And I think for these schedules we should be able to use an 11 by 17 sheet. Try something different. We already used an 8.5 by 11, so double click on here 11 by 17 and pick OK. Or go ahead and use the 8.5 by 11 if you'd like to stay with that format. In the sheet now, I can hold my left mouse button down on the door schedule view in the project browser, pull that onto my sheet, let go, and click. So I probably could fit this on an 8.5 by 11, your choice. There it is. Once you place it, you can even use these arrows to make the columns a little bit longer if you'd like. And you can double click on door schedule in project browser to go back to it to change it. On the floor plan, if you make any changes here, the schedule will be updated. So let's go ahead and create a material takeoff and maybe add into that a cost estimate. So you can create this from any one of these views. You can go to the View tab, go to Schedules, and pick Material Takeoff. When you look at the schedule here, you can create material takeoffs for individual walls, or you can have multiple categories. I'll just keep it as multiple categories so that we can work with square footage in individual costs. So we'll go ahead and pick OK. And then here I'd like to add the field family so that we can get the name of the item, and then the material name down at the bottom. So here, material name, material area right here, and then material cost. I'd like to show you the difference between the material cost and the cost. So let's go ahead and add also the cost. And then the item cost is going to be our own calculated field that is going to multiply the area times the cost. So let's just do it now instead of doing it later, because we can add it later. We'll go ahead and pick the add calculated parameter, and we'll call this calculated parameter item cost. So this is going to be the area times the cost. We'll change the type of number to currency, and then under formula we can click here on the three little dots right there and pick up the material area and multiply it by typing in an asterisk. So hold your shift key down and press like the number 8 so you can get the asterisk in there, and then also go back here to the icon with the three little dots so we can pick up our material cost. And when we do this, Revit doesn't like to multiply square foot by currency, so we're going to add here a divide sign and then space 1 space SF for square feet to change the units per square foot. I'll go ahead and pick OK. And now if I pick OK for the schedule, I have all of the different families, like the door type. And if you scroll down, you'll see there aren't very many in this file because there's not a lot of going on, but we do have material name, and some of them are default walls. So once you start to calculate and create the model with materials, these will fill in a little bit better. We have material area, which is here, a square foot, and material cost. We didn't add that yet, so we'll add that, and also the cost for the doors. And then the item, we'll go ahead and input some material costs so that it can multiply the area times the cost. So we'll go back to the first floor plan and add some basic costs. So I can pick here one of the walls that has brick on it, for instance. So you might have to, if you're using generic walls, you might want to pick one of your generic walls here and drop this properties list down and go back up and select one of these other exterior brick walls. Once you have a wall selected that has brick on it, let's go ahead and pick the edit type button, pick edit under structure, and then underneath the material for the brick, the common brick, I'm going to go ahead and click on that material and then click on the 3 little dots there next to it, and it should bring you here under the identity tab in this material browser. We can add the cost. Now this is going to be per square foot, so you can find out what the cost per square foot is, and then you have to decide on whether that's going to be installed or per material. And so you can change the column heading if you want to create your own parameters. I'm just going to make this easy and put 10 in there for $10 per square foot. Installed, there's a range. So I'll go ahead and pick 10 and pick OK. And then I'm going to pick OK. So that means that all of the common brick is $10 per square foot to install. I'll pick OK. And now I'll do this kind of similar thing with the door. So that was based on a material, and that's going to be based on whatever I create in the schedule, which is per square foot. I'm going to select here one of the doors and pick edit type. And now if I scroll down, you can see that the cost is underneath the identity data for that individual door. So here, maybe this door is $200. I'll just type in 200 under cost and pick OK. And now I'll go back to the schedule. You can go back over here in Project Browser, look underneath schedule and quantities, and double click on that multi-category material takeoff, which you can rename here at the title or underneath the fields. And you'll see that now I have here the cost of the material per square foot times the cost here, which for by item is $10, and then the item cost multiplies those two. So now we have to maybe pick up some currency like the $sign. So we'll go under formatting, and under formatting here on the far right side, it's the formatting tab for the schedule. We can click on item cost, and then we're going to change the field formatting right here. We'll take the check mark out of use project settings and change here the unit symbol to the $sign right there, and put a check mark and use digit grouping so that you can get the commas in there. You can even round up if you wanted to change the rounding to 0 decimal places to get rid of the cents. We can go ahead and pick OK. And at this point, you can also do what we did before and change the alignment from left to center for that specific column. You can also show here calculations, total calculations. So since I'm here already, I'm going to go ahead and pick totals, calculate totals, and pick OK. And now you can see that it changes the look of the $sign there. We don't have any separations of different categories, so we'll go under sorting and grouping, and we're going to sort by the material name, and we'll put a check mark under grand totals and also take the check mark out of itemize every instant. We could also add a header or a footer, which would give each category kind of a name. So I'll go ahead and put a check mark in footer so you can see here that each category will have a name at the bottom. I'll go ahead and pick OK. So I'm going to go back and go to sorting and grouping and put the check mark in itemize every instance so that you can see the totals for those instances. And you can see that I have a lot of default material because the model hasn't been set up yet. But what I wanted you to see and experience and work with for your assignment is to establish the material area and cost, and then per unit or per square foot, and then the item cost, which is the area times the cost, in order to get the total. And we could go back and make this a whole category so that you can just get one grand total. But if you scroll down or take a look here, any of the doors that we put that price in for are going to be in this column for cost. So it's the cost per unit or per item. As you can see, there are a lot of different things that we can do to change the schedule under these tabs, to change the appearance and the formatting, and add or take out some of these fields. We can also filter out by name different material. And so I have a video in the additional resources where you create a material that's recycled carpet or recycled bamboo flooring or whatever it is, and then here you can filter that out by its name and equal to, and then type in that material. That way you can find out, based on a specific material, how much square foot area we have of it and what the cost is of it. I just wanted to point that out to you so that if you have a specific material, you can record how much square footage of that sustainable material you have for your project. And now we can go to sheets and go back to our sheet that we used to bring in the door schedule and drag this multi-category material takeoff here. I knew it was going to be huge, so we can either change your sheet size, or if you place it here, you can use this little break mark right there to split it. It still doesn't fit. So we want to be able to swap out the sheet. Instead of using an 11 by 17, we can use a different size. So one way to do that is to click on the sheet and then go into properties here and swap it out for that 30 by 42. If you think that might be a little too big, you can always load one of the other sheets so that you can put the schedule on a different size sheet. There are several different types of schedules. Just want to go back to here, the schedule list. You can see that we can create a door schedule, window, floors, room finish schedule, all of these different multiple items that you can pull out of the BIM model once they've been established to create a schedule.